Listen, we're all car people. We're all spending a lot of time on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, OfferUp, wherever else you might find someone posting things for sale, and you buy yourself a used engine that's not in a car. You can't hear it running. Well, I'm gonna give you some tips to hopefully keep you from being ripped off and losing that very valuable money. Because let's be honest, we all have a little bit less of it. Everybody wants more of ours, and getting ripped off is not what anyone is looking to do. Hello and welcome to the shop. I'm Jared and this is the Questionable Garage, and these might be some very questionable engines, but what we're not going to do is give you any questionable advice. Now, anytime you are buying a used engine, especially if it's not something you can hear running, it's a little bit scary. Obviously, the best course of action, finding one in a car still, especially modern fuel injection engines, as I point to a 30-year-old Ford 300, but it's fuel injected, classic vintage big block Mopars, or a big diesel, being able to hear it run is going to be your best bet. And of course, probably one of the most surefire ways to know you're getting something good, you could buy an engine from a professional parts wrecking yard, like our friends J&J Auto Wrecking. I get a lot of engines from them when I know it has to be good, or I don't want to have to do any work to it, like it needs to drop in and go. But that comes at a small premium, but you also are gonna have a video of it running, you're gonna have compression test numbers, and you're gonna have a warranty. Well, when you're buying off of Marketplace, you don't have any of that. You get that taillight warranty. The moment you've turned out of the driveway, it's yours. So there's a few things that you can do and really should do anytime you're looking at buying something sitting out of a car. First, ask a couple questions. Now I get it, especially if you've sold anything on Marketplace. I've got a lot of parts I need to sell that I'm hesitant to, because dealing with people on Marketplace, it can be a little bit of a problem. So if you're sending messages, you're potentially not going to get the most attention because they're tired of being offered a tenth of their price, the most ridiculous engines, will you install it for this price? So it's very hard sometimes to get all of your questions answered, so making sure they are good and to the point and are going to be the least amount of effort for the person selling to answer is going to help you make sure you get what you need without wasting their time. The first thing, what's the story of the engine? Why is it sitting out of a car? How did they get it? Things like that. And the main things you want to look out for is, I bought it for a project and I'm going a different direction. That really can point to someone who bought a used engine and discovered it was no good, so they've gone on a new direction and they're kicking it down to the next sucker, which could be you. Now, obviously, these aren't guarantees. They really maybe they bought a big block Mopar and they're putting a Tesla powertrain in it. They've lost their mind. Who knows? So it's not an immediate red flag. The other big thing is, what details can they give you? Obviously, if they answer and say, hey, we got rear-ended at a traffic light, I'm just trying to recoup some costs because I didn't have enough insurance on the car. Well, it means it was running. They were on the road. They got rear-ended. Also asking them if they have any pictures or videos of it running. That's going to help kind of reassure you that, hey, maybe it did really run at some point and hasn't just been sitting in the back row for 5 years, gathering rust and becoming nothing good. Also, along all that whole thing is price point. If someone is selling an LS7 or an LS9 for $300, you don't ask these questions. You go there, you hand them $300 as long as there's not a hole in that block, get that engine in your truck and get out of there, because that thing is hotter than the most recent volcano eruption. If you get an intact LS9 or LS7 for that cheap, feel bad for whoever donated that engine to your project. But really, the price is a big dictating factor of how much effort they're going to put into answering your questions. If they have a big block 440 for $100, they're not going to answer a lot of questions and you're probably going to do pretty good with it. Any Cummins engine less than $1,000, you're probably doing all right. Ford 300s, a couple $100. Again, they're not going to put a lot of effort into answering tons of questions. So make them quick and simple. Now again, unless the price is so far below everything on market or you have every intention of using it as just a core to build your race engine and take it completely apart, you're gonna wanna go ahead and do some inspections when you get there, and we're gonna do that on all of these engines here. Guys, some of you may be new to the channel or watching one of these videos for the first time. Yes, I have a lot of fur on me. It's a losing battle, and I figured you guys would like to meet the culprits. Right there is Pyrrha, and sitting here, kind of misbehaving because he wants a treat, is Magni. These are our two Great Pyrenees, and very much an important part of our family. Pyrrha is actually a service dog for my wife. She has non-epileptic seizures very rarely, and Pyrrha alerts to them, makes sure that she is able to take medicine. Magni, he's my cuddle bug. Despite him being well over 120 pounds, he thinks he's a 3-pound lap dog. Now, one thing we do struggle a bit with these guys is despite how big they are sometimes a little bit of a picky eater, and trying to keep weight on them with your traditional food is difficult because they do have to eat so much of it to get an appropriate calorie density and, well, anything that's quality. Magni, now, be good, sit. The sooner you guys let me talk through this, the sooner you guys get to eat on camera. They do so much for us, it's only fair that we go ahead and do a little bit for them as well, and that's where today's sponsor, Sundays for Dogs, comes in. Now that I have food in the hand, be like interested. Come on, up, come on. Up, no. So what really sets Sundays for Dogs apart is the fact it's all real ingredients. It's stuff you could eat if you wanted to. And when you read the ingredients, you can pronounce everything on there. Beef, beef heart, beef bone. Seriously guys, it's human grade ingredients. So, good enough for you. I'm sorry guys, that one was for me. Okay, you can get one too. What sets Sundays for Dogs apart from all the other foods is it is air dried, shelf stable. Other healthy dog foods on the market require freezer space, you've got to thaw it, they're messy to prepare. This has cleaner ingredients in the frozen stuff, and you just have to pour it in a bowl. It being easy and clean to serve means you don't have to make any sacrifices to give your dogs the best food possible. It's a common phrase that you've heard, a dog may not be with you for your entire life, but you are their best friend for their entire life. Now, if you're ready to give your dog the chance to try Sundays and absolutely fall in love with it, and you want to save 50% off your first order, head on over to sundaysfordogs.com/questionable or use code questionable during checkout. Again, that's going to save you 50% off your first order. And do you need any more proof? The dogs love it. sundaysfordogs.com/questionable and save 50%. So that way you have some when he comes visit. Right? Is that what you said? Oh, you said you slobbered a lot all over me. Now again, you're gonna wanna go ahead and do some inspections when you get there, and we're gonna do that on all of these engines here. Some of the tools you wanna make sure you have with you: spark plug sockets. If it's a valve cover you can pull easily, the tools to remove that valve cover. You need some shop rags. Hopefully it's gonna have some oil to where you can pull and check the dipstick, see what the fluids look like. You're gonna want a flashlight, and you're really gonna want a bore scope just so you can take a peek inside. This really applies if your goal is to get that engine and just drop it in with the least amount of work. And even if you do plan to use the engine as a builder core, you wanna at least scope the cylinders. You don't want something completely full of rust that's gonna limit your bore size. You're gonna have to overbore it a ton to correct it, anything along that. Because anything completely catastrophically full of rust is gonna really limit parts options, it's gonna increase your machining costs, and it's gonna allow you to drive your negotiating price down. Now, if you turn up and the seller is not willing to let you take 5 to 10 minutes, it doesn't take long, pull a spark plug, turn the crank over, anything like that, they just say, take it, well, you maybe don't want it. You're gonna find something they're trying to hide, and they're trying to dump something really cheap. This isn't a universal rule. You really need to read the person you're buying from, and that's gonna help you out determine if it's a good option, whether it runs or not. So now that I've already gone over the tools that you're gonna want, I'm gonna bring you in a little bit closer to this Ford 300, and we're gonna go over what to listen for, what to look at, especially since there's no way to easily start a fuel injected engine on an engine stand. All right, so our Ford 300. The very first thing you're gonna try to do when you come up onto the used engine, does it turn over? That's gonna tell you a whole lot. You're gonna be able to feel a lot of different things. If it has spark plugs in it, you're gonna be able to tell and see if it kind of feels like it has compression when it's coming up. You wanna feel for any looseness in the timing set, any specific spots where it starts to get a little sticky, that may indicate rust in the cylinders, any weird sounds. That's the main goal of just making sure it turns and spins. So, and we're gonna turn it over. Now right away, one thing I'm noticing is we get a little bouncy right here. Now it starts to smooth up, and you can actually hear it start to make some compression. You wanna turn it 1 or 2 times over, full rotations. So to get a full rotation of a compression cycle, that's 2 crank rotations. You can actually, again, hear some of that compression, which is a good sign. But right there, it gets bouncy again. Now, what that bounciness is going to be indicative, there's potentially some rust in the cylinder wall. There's something that the piston rings are sticking on, and that piston is bouncing up and down. But everything else about this engine is complete. For the most part, it has every accessory. The wiring harness has been removed, but knowing and asking, hey, why'd you pull it? Well, this 300, when I bought it, actually came with a second Ford 300, the one that's currently in the Econoline, running amazing. They told me they pulled them because they were putting V8s in all of their trucks. They're big Ford guys. They don't dislike the inline 6, they just preferred V8s. Well, when I got there to load these things up, there's a bunch of Ford trucks sitting around. There were a bunch of V8s being installed in trucks, and they had a small collection of 300s sitting around, as well as a couple 240s. So what does that tell you? They're probably telling the truth. Maybe there was something wrong with the engine, maybe not. They are predominantly just doing V8 swaps in all of their trucks. So we're getting compression, and we're not hearing any weird sounds. So that's where our next tool is going to come in. We've got ourselves a bore scope. I've got my Techlong here still with the 12-foot long bore scope lead. It's a little excessive for automotive use some, but it's what we're going to work with. So pick a cylinder, pull a spark plug. Now, if I remember how to use my tool right, I'm going to hit record, and we're going to get some actual footage. Oh, don't fall down there. I don't know why they shipped the automotive one with the 10-foot long lead. So, with the spark plug out, you can look at it. No huge deposits. It's that weird auto light plug that these things like to run. Nothing is alarming about the look of this plug. Again, ideally, if you're able to, pull all of them, but you do not want to waste the seller's time. They might get irritated, run you off. So, you come in, and you just drop down into your cylinder and take a look. Now, one thing we can tell, there are some ridges, again, potentially from sitting, but we can also see some evidence of crosshatch still existing. There's some oil buildup, as you would expect. And flipping over here, we can see the valves relatively intact. Again, it's not like a perfect low spring chicken, but there's nothing catastrophically alarming in that cylinder. Now we can also run it all the way to the bottom of the bore, or we're going to check another hole really quickly. Again, with a second spark plug removed and a camera that won't focus on it, it looks very similar to our first one, nothing alarming at all. So we'll take our bore scope here, feed it down the hole. And again, right away you can see the cylinder wall, and on that cylinder wall, you can still see the diagonal crosshatch. That is a very good sign. Switch cameras. That might be that little rust spot we were feeling right at the top there. That slight discoloration where it would get a little rough. We see mild pitting. If you're just looking for a runner though, that should clear up just from normal driving. And all in all, again, same thing at the top, a little bit of rust buildup, but nothing about this engine indicates that it's bad. So what does that mean? Well, we turned it over, spins free, scoping 2 cylinders, looks pretty good. Plus we have the story from the seller. They're doing engine swaps. They're pulling 600s out, they're putting V8s in. Looking at all of that information, this is probably a good engine to buy. You're probably gonna be able to drop it in and it will run pretty good. Now, another big thing that you can do visually is look around all your gasket surfaces, see if there's anything big or bad or scary leaking. Mostly, you wanna check around the head gasket. So I'm actually gonna bring you in closer via the classic cell phone, and we're gonna take a look around the head gasket. Actually, I lied. We're gonna do that on a different engine because it's a little bit tricky to get in close, but we'll still go to the cell phone here. All right, so sitting right here, we have a Cummins 6BT with a VE pump, turbocharged, intercooled, out of a Dodge Ram, specifically a 1992 Dodge Ram. I don't know that it matters that much, but that's what this came from. So when we were talking about inspecting head gaskets, so you have your cylinder head here, obviously little mini valve covers, big valve cover, valve cover. Got 6 individual valve covers. Look around that sealing surface for lots of oil, anything there that would indicate that it was leaking. Next, cylinder head to block surface. This is where you want to take a really close look on that seam and see if there's any evidence of potential coolant leaks, anything that looks really scary there. The other thing, again, anywhere there's a gasket, look and inspect for major leaks or buildup. This obviously has some dirt, some buildup, but nothing major. It doesn't look like there's any major fluid leaks. Again, we can come down this side and we don't really see any evidence of a head gasket leak. We do see what could be some type of fluid that was running down, but you can even follow that all the way up to the injector, which means maybe it had some type of fuel leak, or potentially where it was stored, something was running down. This has been out of a vehicle for quite a while. Pairing with that, you can see evidence of some water running out of there and down, but just look it over. Now, turbocharged engine. That means you got one extra thing to look for. Spin the turbo, make sure it is turning freely. This one turns quite well. You want to also check it for play. On most turbos, you're going to feel what's called radial play, where the shaft will move kind of radially, where it will get closer to the housing, sort of left and right if you're looking at the front of it. All turbos are going to have some of that. You just need to make sure it doesn't touch the housing, especially diesel turbos. Some of the interference, the spec for what's too much is when it hits the housing. That's too much flight. What you need to look out for, and will tell you the turbo is immediately going to need a rebuild, is axial. Front to back bearing play, that means the thrush bearings are gone. And don't consider the turbo any type of bonus. Also, in that nature of looking around for leaks, know the mileage of the engine. This has 440,000 miles, so this amount of buildup, totally expected. You're not going to look at that and say, oh my goodness, this is pouring oil, it's no good. You see what could be a normal amount of buildup, filling the engine, things like that. Nothing about this engine gives a red flag. Some of the bonuses, all of the accessories that come with it. Same with this engine. It has most of the accessories with it. This engine, alternator, power steering. Those are very key if you're looking to do a swap, and it gives credence. It reinforces if they're telling you they removed it from a wrecked vehicle or they were doing some type of swap. If the engine is stripped bare, that means they needed the parts for the new engine going in, and maybe that engine was bad, and that's why they were changing it, if it doesn't have a bunch of spare accessories. So let's go back to the story that was told from this engine. It came from a wrecked vehicle. 440,000 miles out of a four-wheel drive truck that was rear-ended and was then used around the lot a little bit. So, gauging the trustworthiness of the seller. There's the car wizard. He wanted it out of his shop. All of the projects he was trying to come up with to put it in didn't have a home. I have a Ram Charger that works perfectly fine, so we should definitely tear it all apart and put that in. Or I just leave the Ram charger alone and we have a Cummins to put into something. Now, you would want to spin it over as well, but I don't have the right socket to grab the slightly offset thing, and I don't want to knock it over because I'm using a Tesla 12-volt battery to hold it up. And it weighs a lot. I don't want to deal with picking it up. All right, so on to our 440. Now, this goes to anyone buying a vintage engine. When you can jump online, and actually there's a lot of information out where you need to find casting numbers on a block, anything like that, to make sure you're buying the right thing. These engines, Chevys will have numbers in the back. Mopars will have numbers right here. We clean that a little bit. Now, I don't remember these off the top of my head, other than obviously it is a 440. I believe that's the 81 date code out of a motorhome, which isn't a high performance engine, but you could do a whole lot of good things with it, cam swap, things like that. So the other thing you really want to do, if you're able to do it, is pull a valve cover. So make sure you have the right tools to do that. So I'm gonna grab the tools. We're gonna pop one of the valve covers off. I'm gonna show you some of the things and talk about a couple of the other things you need to look for underneath a valve cover. If the person you're buying your engine from won't let you take, especially on a older V8, won't let you pull a valve cover for a couple minutes, it may not be something you wanna buy unless it's a 440 like I'm bought it for, which is just a builder core. I wanna be able to upgrade it and do things like that. All right, so pop a valve cover, pop this one. I was buying this predominantly just to build it, but I still probably should have looked in there. All right, now one thing I'm not done is not turned it over. But with the valve covers off, we can turn it over and you can watch your valve train action. Make sure none of the push rods are bent, everything's trying to come up and down. Oh dear. Well then, the story was this was pulled out for a car engine to go in it, but I think there's a little more to the story. It's a good thing I bought this for a builder core and not to just drop in, because as you can tell, she's locked up. We're getting nothing, and I'm guessing if we go backwards, that's just gonna, yeah, it's just loosening the bolt. We're finding out together that my engine is no good. All right, so we just found out this engine doesn't turn over. Kind of a bummer, but it still may be usable. Let's take a look at our cylinders and see what we can find. Take a look, valve. Doesn't look too bad on the back side. That one, it's dirty, but again, we were planning to take this apart to build it. Nothing too alarming. Cylinder number 2, we've got a mud dauber's nest and dirty looking cylinder walls. Cylinder 4, you can actually see we got that awful rust boogers on that cylinder wall. It doesn't look good. How's cylinder 6 look? Not the same thing, flash rust. Nothing catastrophic. 8, vital flash rust. It's kind of disappointing because all in all, it looked like something potentially good. Let's take a look at this other side. Well, that's a lot of cylinder wall rust. So this is where you have to determine what in your builder core are you looking for. This is something that's going to require a big overbore. So if you're planning to buy a whole bunch of parts and do a big stroker build or something like that, you may be okay, but if I can get her to turn correctly and the right camera angle, never mind the spider webs, that amount of pitting is pretty stinking substantial. And if I was a smart man, I would have brought my cameras when I picked this up. This is one of those a friend of a friend buys. If I bought it from the friend, I wouldn't be too worried about. I don't know the friend of the friend, so I just paid for it, trusting the story 100%, and now we're seeing what getting burned looks like. That's what I'm trying to keep you guys from having happen. Didn't turn it over. I would have been able to detect this right away because it's gone into my shop and it's been indoors. And that, as water on the back of the valve, has leaked down and eaten everything away. So don't be like me. Don't get burned. So most likely our whole valve train's locked up. Also, the reason I say pull valve covers, there's leaves in there. So, ignoring the disappointing fact of a locked up, potentially not buildable big block, when you pull the valve covers, you want to look for any major sludge buildup. If you look here, you have minor sludge buildup, but nothing big. Your rockers, everything is looking pretty good. You want a small tan sheen. A huge red flag is if you pull that valve cover off and it is spotless in there. They've cleaned up to hide something, or they put an engine together that failed right away. Those are some red flags. Also, if the outside of the engine, if the engine's just been pressure washed, potentially a bad sign, because you don't know if it was leaking. You can't tell anything when it's spotless like that. Looking through inside the cylinder head, nothing is immediately alarming, ignoring the presence of leaves and paint. Yeah, that's vehicle paint. So ignoring that, we're looking through here, and this is really on a classic, what you want to see. Small amount of sludge, it's gonna happen. These engines aren't tight, they burn oil. You're gonna get a little bit of it. You're looking for leaves, anything like that. On these rockers, look for a punch through hole, anything that indicates wear. If any of these are excessively loose. So this is a normal free play. That rocker is gonna spin. It's trying to open these other valves, that's why some of them, that one spins. Make sure nothing feels bound up in there. Also give it a smell. If it stinks horribly, it's probably got some problems. Anyone who's blown up an engine, you've gone through that smell. You know what you're looking for there. I'm looking at potentially really big build instead of just the cam and refresh. Dang it, I should have took my own advice. So yes, this one is a much quicker video than our build videos, things like that. I'm trying to make any of our tool videos, tech tip videos, a little bit quicker. And because it is shorter, the algorithm is immediately not gonna like it because watch time always goes down. So if you can, comment, let me know, what do you look for when you're trying to buy a used engine off of Marketplace and find those really good deals? What are you expecting to spend on something? Where are your favorite places to find the information unique to your engines? Obviously, you need to look up information for an LS if you're buying an LS, Mopar, diesel, Ford engines. Make sure you look up and find information. So where do you like to go for that? But we're gonna do that quick recap of everything in one spot. All the things you need to do. 1, read the seller. Are they answering your questions? Does the story make sense? If they're telling you they pulled the engine out of a perfectly running car for no reason at all, it probably didn't happen. Usually there's some type of accident. Or if you're buying a base model engine and they're saying they upgraded to something better, that makes sense. But again, if you show up and you see a pristine car, but there's their daily driver and this is an engine that happens to go into that daily driver car, maybe not so good. Make sure you have the tools you need for that specific engine to turn it over, pull a spark plug, and pull the valve cover if you're able to. Remember though, you're not trying to take too much time at the seller's house. That's gonna make them irritable. It's not necessarily good for either of you. So make sure you're able to do your inspections quickly. Also, does the price justify it? They're selling you a couple $1,000 engine, it's a few $100s. Turn it over, but maybe not necessarily get into pulling valve covers. At least pull 1 or 2 spark plugs, scope it there. And once you're looking at the engine, if it is freshly cleaned and pressure washed, that's a red flag or potentially could be hiding something major. Do a visual inspection around all of your major gasket surfaces. Look for evidence of leaking, anything there. Look around your bore casting plugs, freeze plugs. Make sure you don't see any evidence of major rust or leaks there. Look for any holes in it. It may seem silly, but check behind any type of object that could be hiding a hole. I have blown up a lot of engines And it always seems to go behind the starter, fuel filter, somewhere not obvious. So take a quick look, inspect for obvious holes. And once again, bring a wrench, try to turn it over. Otherwise you're gonna end up like me with a potentially useless builder core. Friend of a friend. At least I know this is gonna run. If not, we know where to find David and the Car Wizard to get all of my free 99 back. What do you think? Where should we put this 6BT Cummins into? 1,200 pounds. In theory, it does bolt right into the Ram Charger, and I just need a diesel A518. My transfer case goes to it. A couple drive shafts, one wire, and an intercooler. Diesel? I don't know. What engine swaps are you guys working on? I'm excited to hear about those. And again, thank you to the channel partners and patrons and supporters there. I appreciate all of you and all of you taking the time to watch these things. It does let me do this stuff for a living. It's a lot of fun most of the time, and sometimes, just like you guys, I get skunked on an engine. It happens. Check that description box below. It has information if you want to be a member or a patron. It lets you know the companies that work with us regularly. It lets you know about today's sponsor Sunday for dogs. Make sure your dogs are as happy as Magni and Pyrrha. Get them really good food and nutrition. Maybe sneak a bite for yourself. I'm not a doctor, you shouldn't do it, but it's good enough for you to eat. All right, so next episode, we're getting back to building something. I don't know if it's gonna be Ferrari truck, something outside that is gonna be incredibly useful. Maybe some Hellcat things, who knows? We got a lot of really cool, fun projects, and we're working through all of them. Was gonna be getting an engine potentially ready for the satellite, but that's not gonna work out anymore. I'm Jared, reminding you guys to always make questionable choices, and don't waste your money on marketplace finds. Bring a ratchet, make sure it turns over, so you don't end up with an 800-pound counterweight.